Hello everyone, it is Dr. Julie Anné coming to you from a new beginning and the healthy way out in Scottsdale, Arizona. Thank you so much for tuning into this next episode of Not Your Typical Eating Disorder Recovery Tips Tuesday, where we work to understand the underlying psychological dynamics that are giving rise to your outward eating disorder behavior. In today's episode, we're going to be continuing our theme of understanding how when you use your voice, it disempowers the voice of Ed. Now let's start out with a really important concept, and that is that everybody has 100% full ownership of your own personal body self. No exceptions, period. Now, what does that mean? That means that whether physically or sexually or even emotionally, you are the one that owns the rights to what is done to your body self. What we're going to talk about today are 3 other than sexual abuse violations of your body self. That when other people overstep boundaries and when you do not empower yourself to set healthy limits, ends up feeling like a lack of control, a lack of empowerment over your body self, which then can result in your eating disorder in ED acting out in such a way that you get pseudo control over your body self. And that's going to be through either overeating or under eating, restricting, okay, to try to say, I am going to exert some sort of empowerment or control over my body self. That is a more passive way of trying to set a limit because I'm not doing it directly with my voice. Now, we know that oftentimes this can happen in people who are using food to manipulate their body, let's say overeating to create a protective weight barrier if they have been, let's say, sexually traumatized, or if they are not using their voice and setting healthy body limits. There's an unconscious kind of belief that let me use my weight as a barrier or as that boundary that I'm not setting for myself. Similarly, sometimes this can happen with anorexia and restricting behavior. I oftentimes will hear from my clients as we're working through past trauma that their eating disorder, restrictive behavior, going back into that, pre-pubescent body shape and type was an unconscious way to try to say, I don't want any sexual attention. I'm not yet able to use my voice or to set a healthy limit. And so my anorexia is going to try to do that for me. So there's lots of different ways that when you are not using your voice and empowering yourself, your psyche is going to cultivate other ways to try to take care of that for you. Most of the time, that's going to be in maladaptive behavior. So let's talk about 3 scenarios that you can start using your voice so it disempowers the unconscious use of your eating disorder to try to manipulate your body and or get a sense of control. The first is when people make unsolicited comments about your appearance. Now, this can be both negative or positive. It's these people that see you and they comment on, oh, you look really pretty today, or you look like you've lost weight, or, did you do something different? You look much better than you did before. This isn't overstepping. It's saying you are making a comment about my physical body self that is making me feel uncomfortable. And people do that, especially in our country, all the time. Well, you absolutely have a right to be able to assert yourself in a way that lets people know, please don't comment about my body, please don't comment about my appearance. It makes me feel uncomfortable and I would prefer that you not. Now, a lot of times when I bring up this concept to my clients, they get very worried that they are going to sound, standoffish, or they're going to hurt someone's feelings. And the important thing to know is that you can say things in such a manner that it sets a healthy limit and it empowers yourself, and it doesn't have to necessarily be rude. Being assertive does not mean being aggressive, and being empowering within yourself does not mean that you are being rude to others. So for instance, you can say, I would really appreciate it if you wouldn't comment on my weight. It makes me feel uncomfortable. Or, I would prefer to not talk about if I've lost weight. That's a little personal for me. Or, thank you for the compliment, but it makes me a little bit uncomfortable that you're always so focused on my appearance. Now, again, this might make you feel a little bit uncomfortable, but once you do it once or twice to that individual, they are going to stop and they're not going to be commenting anymore on your body self, and you are going to feel a sense of empowerment and control, and it is absolutely your right. Now, a second area where individuals oftentimes feel a lack of control and or a lack of empowerment over their body self is when people make comments that are objectifying of your body or that are sexually aggressive in nature. These are those comments that are going to be sexist. They are going to be talking specifically about your body in a way that is grossly inappropriate and oversteps your boundaries. Historically, women especially have not felt like they had a right to be able to speak up and to take back control of their body self by setting a very healthy and firm limit with others. More and more, thankfully, there is more news and there's more dialogue about the absolute right to be able to do this. And from a recovery perspective, it is imperative that if it makes you feel uncomfortable to have your body objectified or to have a comment made, that you absolutely have the right to set a firm limit. That might be setting a limit with a boss that makes an inappropriate comment about what you look like or about your body parts. It is perfectly fine to be able to say, that comment makes me feel grossly uncomfortable and I am respectfully asking you to stop. Similarly, if there is a teacher and a teacher is making comments about what you look like, you can say, I don't think it's appropriate for you to comment on my appearance and or my body. That is not your role. Now, again, in the past, this would lead people to feel like maybe there's going to be a negative repercussion, and you still might feel that way. But if you back down because of that, the message that you give to your psyche is, I don't have personal control. Anybody can come in, they can say anything they want about your body, and you, meaning yourself, is not going to do anything to empower yourself or to set a limit. When you feel that lack of control, it gives your eating disorder power to say, okay, I have to find a way to unconsciously take control. I'm going to try to manipulate my body to get a sense of control because you are not empowering yourself. So I encourage you to give yourself permission to set firm limits if somebody is overstepping boundaries and they are objectifying you and or making sexually aggressive comments. The last area that is imperative is that anything that is done physically or sexually to your body, even in a non-abuse situation, I encourage you to please give yourself permission to 100% take ownership and assert what you feel comfortable with or not. Now, many times, again, when I talk about this concept with my clients, It might be a situation where, let's say you're going to the medical doctor and you are uncomfortable with maybe an exam, or you've just met that doctor and they are going to meet you not in your full clothing, but they're going to meet you in a paper robe that barely covers your body, and that makes you feel uncomfortable. And even without a history of sexual abuse or violation, that would make you feel uncomfortable. But especially if you have a history of sexual violation, that is going to cause a lot of emotional unrest. This is an area where you can feel disempowered, and if you feel disempowered and a lack of control, again, that unconscious mechanism called your eating disorder is going to step in and is going to find a way to get pseudo control. So it is absolutely imperative that you give yourself permission to, when you meet the doctor and they say go into the exam room, get undressed, and then we'll talk, that you say, I would prefer that we meet first when I'm fully clothed. That would make me feel more comfortable. It might also be appropriate to say, can you please tell me the nature of the exam, what's going to happen, because I feel uncomfortable with this and I'd like to have this information beforehand. Now, that might make you feel uncomfortable at the beginning, especially if you're somebody that has not empowered yourself readily in your life. But I guarantee that if you step in and you say, hey, I'm giving myself permission to use my voice to assert a limit with what is done to my body self, I guarantee it's going to decrease the empowerment that Ed has over you. So let's recap. What we talked about today was your body self and needing to use your voice to be able to set healthy limits with others, whether they are ill-intending or not, to be able to set those limits so that you have a sense of healthy empowerment and control over your body self, which will also have you feel like you have a sense of control over yourself in general. And that will disempower the need and the voice of Ed. I am Dr. Julie Anné. I am an eating disorder specialist and the owner of A New Beginning and the co-founder of The Healthy Way Out in Scottsdale, Arizona. If you have found this material to be helpful, please do like it at the end of this video. We are working to build our readership, and it lets other people know that our content is worthwhile. Thank you so much for tuning in. It is really my privilege to be able to give you some education and hopefully inspiration on your journey towards full and lasting recovery. Please believe in yourself, work hard, and know that full and lasting recovery is absolutely possible. I will see you next time. Thank you so much for tuning in.